and they will take turn to speak, and then we will have Q&A. And please raise your hand before asking questions. And also, please introduce your organizations, and please do not ask more than 3 questions. On Saturday and Sunday, the violent protest was already briefed yesterday during the briefing, and yesterday in Tsuen and Wan, we saw some violent protests, and we condemn such irresponsible behavior. Today, we'd like to make some clarification on some accusations against police, and then we would also talk about some processes of public concern. Yesterday in Tsuen and Wan, we saw some behavior that caused some public concern in Tsuen police station, and rioters actually aim laser beams at officers. On Imzo Street, barricades were set to block traffic, and there were some clashes with the people, and protesters actually draw graffiti on the wall and destroy some facilities, and later on aimed at the exterior wall with laser beams. We actually issued warning many times before we dispersed the cloud. And we saw that the protest has expanding to more residential areas. Now, this already has transformed to destruction and harassment. Many innocent residents were rounded and were harassed. Many public facilities were destroyed. This has actually deviated from the original grievances and pursuits they talked about. Now this has become irrational and extreme clashes, and the violence has also escalated. The protesters disrupted the public and actually violated the rights of freedom to public assembly. Now, we've seen severe bodily harm to innocent people, and the protesters hurl bricks, arrows, and bows against policemen. All these weapons are extremely dangerous and even can endanger policemen's life. And we also saw harm done to innocent residents. For example, on the overhead bridge, we saw protesters set fires to the policemen and also hurl petrol bomb at reporters, residents, and policemen. And many people injured by the petrol bomb. And we condemn all those violence, and we will not tolerate. This will not be tolerated in any civilized society. And we cannot legalize and justify these kind of behavior. Well, first, I would like to talk about yesterday's operation. Yesterday in Tsuen district, we arrested 2 people, one 19-year-old man who assaulted the police, and he failed to show any ID, and also a 19-year-old woman who is also a suspect of assaulting police. On top of that, we charged a man with the offense of assaulting police, and also this happened in the West Kowloon. We also charged the man with participating in riot, and at 3 in a court, he will be brought to the court, and in Kowloon Wan district, and on Wei Ying Street, they actually blocked the road and also hurled petrol bombs at some of our colleagues. Now we charge him with the offense of participating in riot. And as mentioned by many policemen, for all the violence and unlawful behavior, we will not tolerate, and we would pursue the lawful procedure. In the past few days, we arrested 13 people, including 11 men and 2 women, and between age of 19 to 40. And they're charged with charges of possession of offensive weapon, frauds, assaulting police, etc., including on June 9th, the unlawful behavior against the Legislative Council, and June 1st, the destruction at Legislative Council, and on the 11th, the unlawful assembly, and also on August 13th, the unruly behavior in the airport. In the operation, no policeman was injured. On the ammunition side, yesterday we did not use any ammunition. So for these 2 events, I would like to make some clarification. We noticed that online there are many pictures circulating. It is claimed and that they receive messages from the policemen whether they participated in protest. And we have to clarify, these messages do not come from the PR department of police. Earlier, Mr. Fong talked about all those accusations of police brutality. I would like to clarify. And in the previous briefings, we mentioned the reason why we will arrest some people in the protest is because we know that we have to consider the capability of different police stations. And as for the number of the arrestees and detainees, we have to balance between different districts. In those bigger districts, we can actually be able to arrest more people there. And as for the accusation of police brutality, this is a very serious accusation. We have to make clarification. On August 11th evening time, in Simulan police station, we actually arrested 50 people. Those detainees were sent to Simulan police station in different batches. And our director at the police station said that they will interview them one by one, confirm their identity, heard their needs, for example, make complaints or receive medical treatment or hiring lawyers. And director is sure that these 50 people who were sent to the police station, immediately, some of them raised the requirement to see a doctor. And the director was sure that their injury was caused during the arrest, not in the police station. As I mentioned before, about 30 detainees asked to see a doctor. Due to the large number, we communicated our colleagues at the ambulance department, and we would evaluate their injury level and then deal with them accordingly. And their safety is also our concern. We will definitely allocate personnel to send them to see a doctor. they will be accompanied by 2 to 3 policemen. Well, when traffic accident or other public accident happens, we will also assess the injured, see whose injury should be prioritized. And some of them are sent to the hospital. Most of the people are actually only sustained very minor injuries, like swollen, pain, scratches. And 6 people actually sustained some fractured bones, which are more serious. And we did not receive any complaints of badgering or beating. As I mentioned before, for every detainee, we would issue a detain notification, which states specifically their rights, for example, hiring an attorney, receiving medical treatment, seeing a doctor, etc. We have always respected the rights of detainees. After sent to Tsuen Wan, the personnel there would immediately ask them if they need a lawyer. In the evening, we received we saw some public defenders, meaning lawyers provided by the court, not hired by the detainees, and we actually discussed arrangement with them. Some lawyers went to the police station to see those detainees. Due to the limited room we have in the police station, we hope that they arrange one-on-one meetings, and this also concerns their privacy. And if everyone needs 30 minutes, then in total there are 50 detainees. We only have a few rooms available, and then we have to arrange it according to our resources. And so some of them do not mind to see the lawyer later. So we did ask their preference. It's not true that we do not allow them to see the doctor or lawyer. And if they specify the needs for certain lawyers, we will definitely provide them with the lawyer they needed. So, as we introduce our policies regarding detaining or arrest, we always balance between 3 aspects. First is security, second is individual safety, third is the rights of detainee. And for detainees, we feel responsible. We also need to safeguard the safety of those detainees and other people. So according to their injury and the facts, we have to make sure none of them have possessed any weapons that may hurt others. And secondly, for the evidence related to their offense or other offenses, third, we need to check their belongings. So there are 3 levels of investigation. First is that they do need to see doctors. And first level is they do need to take off their clothes, and second is they don't need to take off the clothes. And third, they have to take off all those underwears. And our policemen will consider each case individually to determine the level. The factors includes the offenses and their criminal record, and the violence during the arrest, whether they have tendency to hurt themselves or others, their behavior, and other demeanors. And I have to emphasize the detain policies is not aimed to punish them. Only when we have enough reasons, we will ask them to take off their underwears. And the rationale behind those policies can be found on the form in the brochure for detainees. If they have any objections against this policy or brochure, they can make complaints and we will make a final decision. If detainee refuse to cooperate, we will remind them and give the opportunity to comply with the requirements. If detainee insists on rejection, then we may charge them with interfering with police procedure, and we may bring the charges against them. And then we may use the lowest level of force to force them to complete the procedures. And I refer you to the brochure, and we would interpret and explain all those policies and also leave them with a copy. So for all the detained brochure is provided to them, and also all the procedures, the body search is done by the same-sex policeman personnel and is monitored by other policemen. And we would done the body search within a room with locks, and during the search the room is locked and no unauthorized personnel is allowed into the room. And the detainee will be able to have the search with their privacy protected. So the search is similar to other counterparts abroad. So about this arrangement, we would ask their age, background, their mental capacity, and their body condition. We'll adjust our procedures accordingly to maintain and to meet their needs and respect their rights. And besides the search, for detainee that needs to take off their underwears, we would invite oversight from outside. And the whole procedure is transparent and is subject to public monitoring. If they wish to complain, we would deal with their complaints and will invest accordingly, fairly and impartially. For any complaints, we will deal with them seriously. I would like to take the opportunity to make two clarifications. First is last week, a lady organized a press conference, accused us with inappropriate investigation and search, and we actually looked back at those CCTV videos. She said she was asked to take off everything, including her underwear, and we checked our record and the form and confirmed the level for her was not taking off all the clothes and underwear. And according to our record, we did not ask her to take off her underwears. And during the detain period, we did not take pictures of her body in any way, in any occasion, and we did not ask her to pat down because we didn't see the needs of it. And we also checked the CCTV outside the room. The search only lasted 4 minutes, it's not 15 to 30 minutes, as she said. And also according to CCTV, the body search no dozens of policemen were waiting outside the room for the body search. And at the time, we did not receive any complaints. And she can still have the option to complain to our police station. And we noticed the story circulating online that the detainee was sexually assaulted by policemen. This is a very serious accusation, and we do not understand why anyone would make such an untrue accusation. And we call for people to tell the truth and should stop demonizing the police. I would like to sum up. The most important thing is when unlawful behavior happens, we have to do our job, and we'll follow up and investigate all past violent and illegal actions. No matter, regardless their background or identity, we would exercise our duty accordingly.
June gradually radicalize and descend to widespread and rampant violence across the city. Last night, tens of protesters surrounded Sam Shui Po police station, pointing laser beams at the buildings and spray paints on its outer wall. Others set up barricades on main roads in the vicinity. Over in Wong Tai Sin, a gang of protesters scuffled and committed destructive acts inside a shopping mall. They later proceed to Wong Tai Sin Discipline Services quarters and hurled insults at the residents. All these acts necessitate police dispersal actions. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that there are more and more innocent victims suffering at the hands of radical protesters. These innocent victims include civilians who pass by, protest site, and the family members of the police officers. The harassing acts outside the Wong Tai Sin quarters is one of the many examples that show protesters have been targeting families of the police officers. They have unfairly victimized our officers' parents, spouse, and children who are not involved in the ongoing operation at all. Also, over the weekend, we saw rioters throwing a large number of self-made petrol bombs randomly in Tsuen Wan, hitting innocent civilians and reporters. The weapons they used were highly dangerous and, in certain cases, deadly. They also rampantly hurled bricks, metal poles, long sticks, and all kinds of offensive weapons at our officers. We also saw extensive destruction of properties. Rioters set up numerous barricades with water-filled barriers, dismantled railings, and bamboo sticks on major roads, paralyzing traffic. Such indiscriminate use of extreme violence is a grave threat to the Hong Kong society, affecting more and more innocent victims. Now I'll move on to arrest figures. From our ongoing investigation into the previous unlawful acts committed by protesters, we have made new arrests over the past few days. We have arrested 13 people, consisting of 11 males and 2 females, aged between 19 and 40s, for offenses like unlawful assembly, criminal damage, possession of offensive weapons, arson, wounding, access to computer with criminal intent, and fraud. Now I'll move on to talk about the custodial search of arrested person. We are aware that there's much public concern about how our officers deal with female detainees. But our baseline is that we always respect the dignity, privacy, and rights of people under police custody. A custodial search is conducted on all detainees to ensure their safety as well as the safety of others who may come into contact with them. This means we have to ensure that they do not have any dangerous objects on their bodies, or they do not keep any articles of evidential values. There are 3 levels of custodial search. Level 1 requires no removal of clothing. Level 2 requires removal of clothing, and Level 3 requires removal of underwear. The scope of the custodial search is determined by the duty officer on a case-by-case basis, and our officers will explain to all the detained people the reason for the search and its scope by serving a police document custodial search form. A search must be conducted, witnessed, and supervised by officers of the same sex as the detainee. There are also certain online rumors that detained person experienced sexual harassment from police officers while in custody. We have looked into the records, and I must emphasize such rumors are totally false. Also, we have not received any formal reports or complaints. In conclusion, we would like to emphasize again that police have zero tolerance for any unlawful acts. I appeal to every member of the public not to rationalize or glorify the violence used by the protesters. The use of violence is never excusable. The police only have one single yardstick. If someone breaks the law, regardless of the rationale, we will bring him to justice. Thank you.
好，而家發問時間。